Alright, good morning Year 10. The first topic that we're going to be looking at after Easter is sequences. So we're going to start off by recapping linear sequences. So this is a sequence that goes up or down by the same amount each term. And the reason we're doing this is because it's going to really help us when we get onto quadratic sequences, so those harder ones. Alright. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what's the first sequence you ever learned? Alright, so I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. You can pause the video if you need to. Okay, so I'm willing to bet that this is the first sequence you ever learned. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. So it's our counting numbers, it's our 1 times tables. So when we learned this, we didn't know at the time, but a mathematician would call this sequence n. Right, so n, so 1n is your 1 times tables, okay, which means that 2n is just double n, it's double the 1 times tables. And if we double the 1 times tables, we get the 2 times tables. Okay, and then 3n and so on, so 3n would be our 3 times tables. Okay, so how does this sequence, so 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, how does that compare to the previous sequence that we just listed? Okay, so take a moment to think about that. So my 3 times table starts with a 3, but ours is starting with a 4. I can see that my new sequence, it's still going up in 3s, so it's kind of like the 3 times table, so I know it's something like 3n because it's going up in 3s, but it's not the 3 times tables. I can see that this sequence, it's actually one more than the 3 times tables, so this would be the sequence 3n plus 1. Alright? Okay, so if I try one and then you can try one and then I'll set you off with some work. Alright, so the question is find the nth term. So let's say I've got the sequence 6, 10, 14, 18. Right, I know that's not some common times tables that I'm used to, but I do know that it's something to do with the 4 times tables. I know this sequence is something to do with the 4 times tables because I can see that it's going up by 4 each time. It's a linear sequence going up by 4. So it's something to do with 4n, but it's not quite the 4 times tables because the 4 times tables would be 4, 8, 12, 16. So I just need to ask myself, how does this sequence going up in 4s, how does this sequence compare with the actual 4 times tables? The actual 4 times tables starts with a 4, but mine starts with a 6. The second term would be 8, but then my second term is 10. So I can see that each term in my sequence is just 2 more than the 4 times tables, so I have 4n plus 2. Right? Could you use that to try this example then? So your example is 5, 9, 13, 17. Okay, you want to ask yourself, what's my sequence going up in? And how does my sequence compare to that times tables? Right, so pause the video if you need to, and I'll reveal the answer in a couple of seconds. Okay, so you should have got 4n plus 1, because this is the 4 times tables, but 1 more than the 4 times tables. Okay, so we've got 2 tasks to complete today. So task 1 is just generate the nth term of these sequences. You will notice some interesting patterns between each answer. So please ask yourself, why are these patterns emerging? See if you can explain it, like the relationship between each question. And then task 2, it's a gap fill activity. So it starts off with question 1, where it gives you the sequence and it just asks you questions about that sequence. So what is the nth term? What is the term-to-term rule, for example? And then later on it gets a lot more challenging, so it just gives you these clues and it wants you to work backwards to find that sequence and so on. Right, so the answers will be at the end of this video and also attached to the worksheet, and just please get in contact, Google Classroom, email, if you have any questions, and I'll be around to help you. Alright, thank you.